Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yes, just under 110 kilometres to go today. And as you saw, the profile is like a very well-kept billiard table. Flat as they come, not one single lump or bump in it. This is probably the easiest stage of the Giro d'Italia in the last few years. Not easy if you want to win it, though, because there are still enough sprinters left to challenge. We have a breakaway that's gone, didn't take too long to go, as you might expect today, into a headwind, pretty miserable conditions as soon as the right composition was found. The break, which now is Marco Frapporti of Androni Sidamek, Italian rider riding for Gianni Savia's team that's only missed one breakaway in this whole Giro d'Italia. YAM Cycling had the Frenchman Jérôme Pinault out there at 2.5 hours from the lead of Alberto Contador, so he's not a threat at all. Rick Zabel, the son of Eric Zabel, who won so much in the world but always failed to win a Giro d'Italia stage. He's out there as well for a victorious BMC racing team who had their win yesterday with Philippe Gilbert. They've since lost Stefan Kung. Lots of talk about yesterday, lots of talk about the weekend to come, and of course a build-up to an expected sprint finish later on today. But of course we've said that once this week before and been proved wrong. We've been surprised every day on the Giro. So much more to come this afternoon. Join us after this break and we'll get on with stage 13 of the 2015 Tour of Italy. Well, some sprinters may be leaving the Giro tonight with the mountains coming up, with the time trial coming up. Who will sign off with a Venetian spritz this evening? It's not exactly spritz or beach weather, but we're heading to ʻdʒiːro, just around the corner from Venice. Completely flat along the Venetian plain today. You've seen the profile, no climb whatsoever. Beñat Chastu, who has the blue King of the Mountains jersey, will not see that under threat at all today. It's all about the sprinters. It's all about the red points jersey with 50 points on offer for the win today. And it's all expected to be a big fight between Andre Greipel, Elia Viviani, and maybe even the likes of Giacomo Nizzolo and Luca Mesquet. Throw in Alessandro Petacchi, Davide Apollonio, Bonen, Hausler, Ruffoni, Modolo, Bola, and even Lobato into the mix, then you've got a really interesting day ahead. Frapporti, Pinault and Zabel are out there in the break. Alongside me is Sean Kelly, just under 105 kilometres to go. Sean, depending on which weather forecast you believe, we could have a little bit of excitement with crosswinds as well today.
Yes, well, we've seen already with the peloton, going at a very strong pace. We can see lined out here. They were over to the right-hand side of the road, so I'll tell you that there's a little bit of a wind coming from the side, not major. It doesn't look like it's enough to split the group, but when you're really going in the end, if they have to start racing 25-30 kilometres to finish, we could see problems for some riders. But again, horrible conditions here, the wet conditions, not that cold, but still, you look at some of the riders, some of them are wearing winter gloves, other ones, have just short sleeves. So when you're out there all day in that rain, well, it can start getting cold in the end of the day, but not good weather at all for a lot of the riders, because that wet conditions, it can really tell. But luckily today they have a flat stage and not too technical, nothing like we had yesterday. It was very technical descents where there was a lot of crashes yesterday. Today it's just a final. It will be very nervous because of course when you race fast on the final 30 kilometres, any little corners at all in these sorts of wet conditions are going to make it very treacherous.
Yeah, a little housekeeping to get out of the way before we continue today. Frapporti, Pinault and Zabel are out there in the break. It took around 10 to 15 kilometres to go. Androni Giocattoli making sure that they were in every single one but one of the Giro breakaways this year. Rick Zabel there, the young rider as well, the son of Eric Zabel. Jérôme Pinault, the experienced man from YAM Cycling, the Swiss team. At the front you can see it is Marco Frapporti. Bit of a problem in that everybody's got their rain jackets on here. Been all the talk about UCI rules so far this week. One rule that they don't seem too keen on enforcing, which would help us commentators a lot, is having the same colour rain jackets and jerseys, over jerseys, winter jerseys, water repellents, whatever you want to call them, as their team colours. It's not always the case. There's a lot of black there, there's a lot of different colours about. It's not always to spot who is who. Yesterday we had 3 riders who did not finish the stage, as we have a problem for Luca Paolini, it looked like. All in black, as you can see, should be in red and white. But yesterday Manuel Belletti didn't finish. We heard about that very early on in stage 12. Jaroslav Maric made a right mess of his face. There are some horrible, horrible pictures on Twitter. Luckily, he's okay. He's been bandaged up, and the Polish rider is off home to recover for CCC Sprandi Polkowice. He's the first rider for them to drop out. Stefan Küng, we heard about his broken vertebra towards the end of the day. The young rider impressed so much at the Tour de Romandie. He's on his way home as well, so feet up and best of a recovery to Stefan Küng once he gets out of hospital in the next few days. And before today, Simon Gerrans did not start. Simon Gerrans, who crashed yesterday but did manage to finish the stage. So 4 riders down, just over 180 left in this Giro d'Italia, and just over 100 kilometres still to go today. 2 minutes and 4 for the breakaway. And Sean, they're strung out at the minute. There's a couple of different teams sharing out the work, pardon me. Surely we're not going to see the sprint teams make the same error as we had the other day. Let them get 3 or 4 minutes. Just one team perhaps working at the front. You can see people already sharing out the work as we look at the overall standings. And the break haven't been allowed to get more than 2 minutes.
No, and the small breakaway, of course. 3 riders, easy to manage, and they're not allowing that big advantage. And the wet conditions as well. I think the peloton will keep rolling along at a very fast pace. If we had really nice weather, sunshine, I think the peloton would, relax a bit for a while and leave these guys take 7 or 8 minutes, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They just want to keep rolling along, keep warm as well, and that's what's happening on the front of the peloton. So for our 3 riders, it looks like going back in history, the finish here, it's always been a bunch sprint, and it looks like it's certainly going to be the case today. Although in this Giro, we've said it many times, but there's days it looked like the breakaway wasn't going to survive, that it was going to be a bunch sprint, but what a surprise we had, certainly on 2 occasions, but I don't think we'll see that today.
Well, we've seen teams from Giant Alpecin, riders from Giant Alpecin, Ethics, Trek, and of course Lotto Soudal doing a bit of work at the front. There's Nicola Bohem's lead in the red jersey points classification. Elia Viviani in second on 89. Now, Andre Greipel stated in this year that he's not interested in the red jersey, which lends to me the suspicion that he's not going to ride into week 3 with just 1 sprint stage available in Milan. He would nevertheless love to take a win. That would put him in the red jersey today, and I'm not sure whether he'd then continue the weekend, then leave next week. Now, what's happened here? Breakaway. It looks as though there's a bit of a roadblock ahead. Oh dear, I think is that a level crossing? We've had this problem once or twice before this year. Think back to Paris-Roubaix. In fact, it's a local barrier. Level crossing that's just opened again. Police finally allowed through. There is the train track. Good that Frapporti can see the funny side of this. Young Rick Zabel at the front there with a bit more of a serious look. And we've already seen it, of course, in Paris-Roubaix, Sean. Surely the organisers here, as Jérôme Pinot's having a laugh as well, they know exactly what they're there for today, just to show off the sponsors' jerseys and enjoy themselves. Sure, the commissars here are just going to have to make sure that they neutralise the peloton behind and allow the gap to grow again.
They will stop the peloton. And we can see here, very relaxed. What a different scene from we had in Paris-Roubaix when the barrier went down. There was guys going through under the barrier. Here, very much relaxed, and the guys will be just left to roll out, the 3 leaders, and of course they will stop the peloton and allow them to have the advantage they had before they came to the barrier down.
Well, after all of the hoo-ha with Richie Porte the other day, I think the UCI wouldn't dare do otherwise, would they? They've got to enforce the rules to the letter here.
Well, at this stage in the race, it's easy to stop the peloton because 150 advantage, 3 riders out in front, 100 kilometres to go. The peloton are not going to be going at a real fast rate when they come here. If you had this in the final 15-20 kilometres and the brake got stopped, the brake riders would be nervous, but the peloton as well, they'd be coming at 50 plus kilometres per hour. It would be difficult to slow them down, but here, as we can see, it will be no problem at all.
Red flags out all over through the bunch. Of course, those guys, I'm sure, will be told through their earpieces as well by the director of Sportives. We'll have the telly on back in the car now that the television coverage has started. Exactly what's going on, just slowing down, and the commissars managing the gap to the best of their ability. They had about 2 minutes and 8 seconds just before the barriers went down. 100 k's to go, and again, we're still waiting for that boring day, aren't we? We haven't had one of those days on this Giro d'Italia. Always something happening. As you can see, the breakaway just getting going again on the left-hand side. How does that sort of thing affect your rhythm, Sean, having to stop like that?
Well, I don't think the little time they had to stop, and we can see that the peloton didn't look like they got stopped, as much as the 3 breakaway, but We only see the shot as they came to the level crossing. I think before that the motorbikes had slowed them down quite a lot, so they were probably rolling along at a slower pace, so they probably got, you know, the exact time they were down.
Well, we'll see about that. 57 seconds it says for the minute. They've got some work. Riding on the wet Venetian plains on today's Giro d'Italia stage. You've already had a level crossing incident in this Giro, and this only just happened. I don't think the brakes advantage was maintained properly, though. Let's say 2 minutes and 8 seconds, more or less, when they went towards that level crossing. We're talking about a minute right now. That's if the GPS function's working correctly. Of course, the guys behind do not want to catch the breakaway. That's pretty certain at the minute. 59 seconds. Lotto Soudal stayed at the front. They won't slow down very much at all. But it stopped raining for the minute, not as hard as it was. Still quite a bit of wind about though, and rain forecast all afternoon. Crosswinds, the strength of which varies depending on which of the many weather forecasts we were given, you believe. For the general classification, guys, it's all about staying out of trouble and looking for the weekend. We've had all the problems for Richie Porte this week, Sean. Time trial coming up tomorrow. Everybody was talking Porte up for the time trial, along with Rigoberto Urán before this Giro d'Italia started. It's a really, really long one, the longest one we've had on the Giro in years and years and years. A bit of climbing in it. Can Richie Porte and Rigoberto Urán really make a difference and really take some serious time back tomorrow?
Well, you would expect Richie Porte to take some time back, although Contador, you know, he seems to be just the past 3 days he seems to be getting better and better, and it's going to be an interesting one. Normally Contador, you know, of the past, he was a time trial as good as any of the general classification men here, but he seemed to have, you know, off his best in the latter years. It's going to be a really interesting one. But again, you know, when you're in the race leader's jersey, everybody's off in front of you. The way he's riding at the moment, and you know, we see yesterday as well, some of the climbs there he seemed to be just putting a little bit of an acceleration over the top. When you're feeling really good, you know, you do that, and it looks like Contador is, you know, certainly the last 2 days of racing, he seemed to be very impressive, and you know, seemed to be just no difficulty at all there. And of course, yesterday in the sprint, you could see that when Philippe Gilbert went, he looked around a bit, he was seeing where the other general classification men were. I think he had it to go after Gilbert if he really wanted to, but he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to be, you know, seen to be taking stage victories and taking the, you know, the race leadership, all of that. So I think he just waited off a bit, and of course he finished second. So the indications are he's really in good shape, and that is good for the morale. And then, you know, it goes on from there. But Richie Porte certainly have to put in, as Rigoberto Urán, they have to put in a big time trial to try to pull some time back, and that is the big question now, who is going to be, you know, the strong men of the general classification in the time trial. Then go on to Aru, of course. You know, in the time trial he could struggle a bit, although last year in the Giro he put up some great time trial performances. Will he better do that again this year? You never know as a rider yourself, you're always a bit concerned, and if you're not going well the days leading into it, that's when it starts to work on you. You're concerned, am I not as good as I should be? If you're really going well, as in Contador's case, well then the morale is just rocket high.
Interesting with Contador, only 2 days ago he was talking about having to change his position on the time trial bike for tomorrow, but we've seen in these 2 days that he's looked happy, he's been smiling, he's been performing fantastically well on the very few occasions he's had to show off his climbing ability. I just wonder if he's feeling that good that he'll feel himself almost 100% recovered and ready for tomorrow.
Well, I think he's certainly ready for tomorrow. The question is now, you know, is he as good in time trial as he has been in the past? Can he put up that performance? Because he's up against Richie Porte, who's a really good one, Urán as well. And you know, reading there last night, he was talking about taking his bike to the bedroom. His mechanic was going to bring it up. He was going to sit on his bike and see how he felt. Surprised to hear all of that. I wasn't when he had the crash, of course. If you're suffering, you know, and you have a problem with your shoulder, well, then you might want to adjust a bit. But if that's all over, I don't see the reason why you should have to change your time trial at this time in the year in such an important race.
21-year-old Rick Zabel, who also likes football as well as cycling. Son of Eric Zabel, but his cycling hero, as you can see from that graphic, is Eddy Merckx. Rick Zabel, by the way, in the red there, the German on the right-hand side, riding for the US-based Swiss-sponsored team BMC Racing. He's the youngest rider in the Giro d'Italia. Of course, one of the guys who could be in for a stage win today, Alessandro Petacchi. Strange to think that his father used to race against him in the bunch sprints. Moving on to Marco Fraporti, the experienced rider who's been for quite a while now. 30 years of age this year. Likes running the 200 metres in athletics as well. Usain Bolt from that region is his athlete hero. Back in Astana colours, it will have been perhaps a little more worrying evening yesterday. Not worrying when it comes to the numbers though, because if a couple of their guys have good time trials tomorrow, I'm thinking of Dario Cataldo here, they could be even further up and even stronger on the general classification. They could find themselves even in that embarrassing position if Aru's, let's say, very small decline turns into a big decline tomorrow, where Aru isn't the strongest rider or the best placed rider in the team.
Well, we could see that case, and it's going to be a complicated one then for Astana, because
how do you manage it?
How do you manage it? And Cataldo, you know, a real good time trialist, a very strong rider for the general classification, but is he good enough to hold up there in the final week? They would much prefer to have Aru in the position he's in at the moment at the end of the time trial tomorrow evening, and then, you know, I think the confidence within Astana would be much better. But with Cataldo, with Mikel Landa, I don't know if they would be, you know, really keen on that. But the time trial, you have no control over it. You go out there, you give it your best, you ride it your fastest from A to B, and then you see the results at the end of the evening.
Diego Lisi, stage winner to Fuji. Back amongst the cars, he was spending time on Italian television, gets the thumbs up from the organisation as well. Just a day out on a bike for him. And it sort of should have been a day out on a bike for the GC contenders. You can see why the organisers put this stage here today, just to make everyone that little bit happier before going into the time trial tomorrow, then the first big high mountain stage on Sunday. But if you don't like the wet, it's certainly not a nice day out, is it?
No, it's not a nice day out at all. Of course, everybody would prefer, you know, nice conditions, but you have no control over the weather, and you just get on with it. And the ones who support the cold weather, and of course we must remember the wet, little bit of cold, who support that best, they have the advantage.
Well, Zabel out-sprinted. Rick Zabel in second place by Marco Fraporti at the intermediate sprint that we've just had. There's actually a separate intermediate sprint prize at the end of the Giro, for which there's no jersey than the actual points jerseys. You can see behind people getting interested in the points jersey as well. So points for the intermediate sprint prize won by Fraporti, who's now joint top of that with his teammate Marco Bandiera. But as far as the red jersey is concerned, Bernie Eisel is looking around, trying to do his best for Elia Viviani. Nicola Bohem, the man at the front there, he has the red jersey on underneath that black top of his. And you can see Giacomo Nizzolo on the right-hand side coming through as well. Elia Viviani shaking his head. He's not happy. He's going to come in fourth place there. Add that to the three out there at the front. That's a seventh place. And a fourth place overall for Giacomo Nizzolo, who's come across and taken some extra points. One more intermediate sprint in just a few kilometres as well. This one, by the way, at Santa Maria di Sala. Santa Maria di Sala, you can see the wonderful buildings on show, the stately homes. Due its inspiration, as you can see, from the Palace of Versailles. Wonderful old Venetian Empire buildings around in this part of the world. Also got quite a bit of cycling history in Santa Maria di Sala. It was actually home to Antonio Bevilacqua, who was born in 1918, died in 72. Powerful all-round cyclist. He was actually a World Pursuit champion in both 1950 and 1951. He won Paris-Roubaix in 51 as well. Italian Championship in 1950. And 11 stage victories at the Giro d'Italia for Antonio Bevilacqua. So that's Fraporti out sprinting Rick Zabel. Jérôme Pinault, by the way, is riding his first ever Giro d'Italia. It's late advanced years in cycling, the Frenchman, in third place there. Fraporti, Zabel and Pinault. They're the 3 sets of points rather for the intermediate sprint prize. But what went on behind is much more interesting for the red jersey. And this is what went on behind. You could just see, Sean, that Elia Viviani wasn't particularly happy. Shakes his head. We saw Bernie Eisel trying to put him in the right position, but he lost the wheel of Eisel quite early on in that.
Well, we see Bernie Eisel leading into that left-hand corner, and then he was looking about, and you could see on Bernie Eisel's face, Viviani was too far off. He was, too far. He wasn't in the wheel actually in fourth place. He was, a couple of bike lengths off, and I don't think Bernie Eisel was happy with the way he positioned himself after he doing a good job there to lead him out, but he just didn't get right into the corner, I reckon, and too far out, and then was too late.
Time to hear from Giacomo ʻdʒiːro at the start today. A day for the sprinters. Yeah, it's really, really flat today. Definitely for the sprinters. But the weather's going to play its part. Wet roads, it's going to be really, really difficult. But we'll try to do our best. Yeah, the tactic for us is just to try and stay in front and just do the best way we can. Yeah, it's been a frustrating Giro, really, just getting there bit by bit, but we'll hope to do and win today. Giacomo ʻdʒiːro keeping the faith there. 85 kilometers to go. We've been through Santa Maria di Sala. We're heading up to Milano next. Lies halfway between Padova and Venice. Padua, as we say in English as well, an anglicised version of the city. 15 degrees today, and you can just see that wind coming from the north at 20 kilometers per hour. We're talking about all the towns and cities around here. He's from very, very close to here. Elia Viviani, a Venetian. The only covered velodrome in Italy is actually in this area as well, and he lives less than an hour from it. Goes and trains there quite a lot, still does a lot of work on the track, as we saw in the World Championships, and that sort of makes him a perfect fit for Team Sky as well, doesn't it? And their sort of model that they've come through in the last few years. Yes,
a perfect fit for Sky. He didn't do it perfectly in that sprint, because if you come from the area, you should have an idea where the sprint is going to be. So it was, a left-hander, then 150 meters maybe out of the corner. You need to be in a better position, and he was too far off, and I think for that reason he's very disappointed with himself.
Now, I'm as much of a Luca Paolini fan as the next man, but he's in a complete different kit there. Is it not time that the UCI did something about this? He's in all black when he should be wearing red, white and blue. It's not just the rain jacket here. Luca Paolini's got all black bib tights on. Yes, we can see the sponsor, but when you're looking at a helicopter shot of this from the air, it's a nightmare. You can't see where it is. Well,
I think under the top there's surely a jersey with the Katusha colours. The bottoms, of course, yes, it's a totally different a different colour, and it's very confusing, and it's certainly something that the UCI should really clamp down on, because impossible when you get a day like today, not alone with the rain jackets, but also when you see in Paolini there with a totally different colour as well. Impossible to recognise.
Local cycling club from Milano saying hello to the Giro d'Italia. Cycling and rugby, the big sports in this area, as Alberto Contador, who says he likes the rain, is enjoying his day so far, just in conversation with Roman Kreuziger. Contador, a Spanish speaker. His English has improved so much in the last couple of years as well. But this is at core an Italian-speaking squad that he has with him here, the likes of Kreuziger, who's lived and trained in Italy for a long time, although he is from the Czech Republic, Basso, and of course we've seen Tosato.
Nick Rogers, who lives in Italy, so it's sure that there's a lot of Italian speakers in the team.
Paolini back at the car.
Oh,
this is the breakaway. And look at all the people out here, Sean. They love cycling in this part of the world.
Yes, they certainly. When they come out on a day like today and just hang on the roadside, it just tells you how much and how great supporters they are of cycling. And in the Giro, no matter where you go, you always get huge crowds. But when you see them out on a day like today in those conditions, it just shows that they love bike racing.
The old MAPE team used to be based in this part of the world here as well. $82 kilometers to go, 1 minute and 33 for the three breakaway riders. Pressure today on Andre Greipel. Has his stage win already, but he came for more than just one win, didn't he, Sean?
Yes, I think he would be looking at the race manual at the start of this one, and he'll be hoping for certainly more than one. And it hasn't worked out, but the team, again, they did some great riding on the front, but to the surprise of everybody, the breakaway on occasion, they were extremely strong in that final 30 kilometres, and just didn't work out for him. So today, if he can pull off, the stage victory today, we presume he's going to, not go all the way in this Giro, but if he gets a stage victory today, 2 stage victories, in a big tour, it would be a great performance.
And that's going to help him going into the Tour de France as well. Mark Cavendish has been in excellent form in the races he's ridden, although people may say he's not been riding as often in the top races this year. Marcel Kittel we haven't seen, and if Andre Greipel can go into the Tour with 2 Giro stage wins, he'll be feeling that bit much better about his chances. A very warm welcome back. Just under 80 kilometres still to go. The break on their way to the second intermediate sprint of the day. Already had the first. 1 minute and 15. If you're just tuning in, well, they've already had the difficulty of a level crossing to get by. None of the polemics or problems that we saw at Paris-Roubaix, thankfully. Although they say that the commissars didn't exactly keep their advantage of around 2 minutes and 8 seconds. Today was a day where the breakaway had a realistic prospect of surviving to the end. I think there'd have been a few louder voices about that already, both in the cars, the peloton, and on the radio. 1:14 for the minute. Now, we went through Camisano earlier on today, just under 30 kilometres into the stage. We had a little special sprint. I'm not sure how much the riders knew, and if they didn't know, well, they should have been reading the route book, because the 3 guys in the breakaway had a chance to win bikes. 3 bikes to donate to their mechanics. And that's because the great Lampre mechanic, who's been there since the year 2000 now, Enrico Pegno, it's his 23rd Giro d'Italia. He offered up from his own bike shop in the town of Camisano Vicentino 3 bikes to give to their mechanics or people of their choice. I'm not sure who won it. It was before we went to pictures. But 3 bikes up for grabs. It was a nice little story, those little sprints that are offered up in varying municipalities. Let's go and hear from Elia Viviani, a local today's stage.
Una giornata un po' particolare per tu.
Yeah, quite a particular day for you. Yeah, I'm going home today. It's a shame that the weather's like this. And we're going to try and sprint for the win. Short and to the point, Elia Viviani already won his first ever Giro d'Italia win back in Genoa. I know you were watching at home with the feet up and you had the telly on that day. It was a crazy sprint, Sean. And again, in Sky, he's been doing a lot of work for the team this year. They've given him his chances, though. I know that Dave Brailsford really rates Elia Viviani. He said he's watched him for years upon years in different velodromes around the world. He knows that he's a class bike rider. And today, he should have the support of the likes of Puccio and Eisel towards the end.
Well, they will have the support of a number of riders in the end, and try and keep him in a good position. And I think in the final kilometre, the final maybe 2 kilometres, but he would prefer that if the men are looking after him, can take him into that final kilometre in a good position, and then he's going to try and follow the other riders. We see there the interview with Vincent. He's a bit uptight, not relaxed at all.
I wonder what Vincent's done to upset him.
No, I think the pressure's on. Maybe the wet conditions as well. I think he would prefer maybe dry conditions. I'm not sure if he supports the conditions we're having the last number of days, but he looked a little bit tense, a bit nervous there, and not giving a lot to the interview.
Yeah, the first thing was about the weather, wasn't it, really? He wasn't happy with that. He's used to different things. As we see Diego Lisi back at the Lampre car. They've already had a stage winner. Today they'll be riding for Sacha Modolo, although they do have a team full of different sprinters, of course. In fact, the day that Olisi won, it was his 4th Giro d'Italia stage win. They had been riding for Modolo, and they had different riders there. Maxi Chiesa, the Argentine rider. Roberto Ferrari have been doing a bit of lead-out work as well. Xu Gang had a bit of an injury yesterday, but he's riding on the Chinese rider. Giant Alpecin with their own Chinese rider close to the front, the breakaway killer, Zheng Ji. He finished in the top 100 of a Grand Tour stage for the first time in his career yesterday, Zheng Ji. He's normally a man who does all the work for the team early on. He's one of the best in the business at bringing back the breakaway. He's Jan Alpercine's version of Tony Martin, really. He was out there working hard. And yeah, because it was such a difficult day, he didn't have any work to bring any back. He managed to finish in the top 100.
Yes, and it shows, you know, he is a real strong rider, very, very powerful. And when he doesn't have to work in the early part of the day, which is normally his job, you know, we see him at the front controlling for the sprinters of Giant. But yesterday he was just allowed to follow the race and finish quite well. Looking at Diego Lucy there yesterday, he put in a good performance because he was, you know, out the rear of the peloton and did fight back and got in there and still finished third. You know, when you can do that, it's amazing. Those guys, like, they can get dropped, you know, scrape their way back into the leading group again and still finish third, because on that finish yesterday, you know, you have to be, you know, go deep. But I reckon that, you know, he really went forward, but just a little bit off the pace of Philippe Gilbert.
Another man we saw get back on in the end, and it was quite a surprise. Michael Matthews was there, certainly with the rhythm. It was a fantastic effort to get back on a day where he'd already shown to our cameras that he wasn't particularly happy with the team's tactical direction on the day. The fact that they decided to ride for Simon Gerrans, who then crashed out and, of course, abandoned the Giro d'Italia this morning. Michael Matthews, can you see him being good enough to challenge the pure sprinters today, the likes of Greipel, maybe Mezgec and ʻdʒiːro Viviani?
Well, I don't think he will do that. We've seen in the last days, of course, he was waiting for the, you know, the stage of yesterday and the previous day, the flat stage before that. He was saying he was going to wait because the days further down were more to his style. It'll be interesting today, will he do it? But I don't think he has the confidence that he can beat the likes of Greipel and the better sprinters here. So I'd be surprised. But again, as a sprinter, you know, you always just hold up around the front there, and sometimes you can get a real good run if you're in a good position where somebody maybe goes, a team takes it very, very fast in the final kilometre. And if you're in a real lucky position, then sometimes you can find yourself in a position to challenge for a sprint which you would be expecting to be a difficult one for you.
3 kilometres to go to the next intermediate sprint. That's at Mestre. If you've ever been to Venice on holiday, you'll know Mestre because it's where the huge train station is, where you get the train into the centre of Venice and out onto the one of more than 100 islands make up Venice. It's absolutely fascinating when you're there. But we're heading into Mestre. You can just see the old Venetian Empire flag in the background as well. Plenty of those around this area. Mestre also is the first point of the arrival when you get the bus from the airport. It's sort of the big satellite town of Venice itself. Huge industrial area, canals everywhere. Canals that will be full of water with all the stuff that's falling from the sky today. Frapporti, Pino and Zabel. What we're going to see here, Sean, another effort from Frapporti, I think, to make the intermediate sprint prize his own.
Yes, well, he will certainly try and, you know, make the best place possible. He'll be trying to win this one, but again, will he be allowed, you know, to take it? I think we see his Rick Zabel there. The last one he was in the wheel, but he didn't really try it 100%. But I'd be surprised if they'll even take, you know, the second one that easy as he did take the last one.
Just under 74 kilometres to go, and we're very, very close to the next intermediate sprint. Average race speed at 48 kilometres per hour. Flat stage today. As you expected, it would be a little quicker. The headwind has turned to crosswind at times. And a breakaway that has not really got more than 2 minutes. Sprinters teams determined not to make the same errors of a couple of days ago. It's almost like the Giro d'Italia's version of the Scheldeprijs today, isn't it? It's completely flat. It's a bit like a Sprinters World Championship, except the likes of Cavendish and Kittel on here. It's a shame, isn't it?
Yes, but hopefully it's not like the Scheldeprijs in the end, because there's always carnage and, you know, so many crashes. Every year they seem to be big pile-ups. Please God, we don't see that today.
No. Touch wood. Thanks for all your comments on Twitter, by the way. Please keep in touch with us throughout this Giro d'Italia. We've really enjoyed having all your questions and your views. I know Sean's enjoyed answering them as well. It's #HomeOfCycling for all your comments on Twitter. 1 minute and 12 for these three guys. An Italian representation in the shape of Frapporti, riding for that Italian team Androni as well, who usually come here as the Italian Cup winners, but they had to be invited last year as Bardiani were the top team in Italy and on that circuit last time. 500 metres here till the intermediate sprint. Road just narrowing. You can see Frapporti taking his position towards the back. The rain jacket is off now. He's got the numbers showing. And here we go in Mestre. Pino is waiting there in the dark blue jersey, the Frenchman as well. And it's Rick Zabel who's still got that rain jacket on at the front. Into the trees they go, intermediate sprint approaching. And Frapporti is in the right place at the right time. Is he going to make the dart? Zabel waits. And here we go, Zabel on the left-hand side going for it, points on offer, bonus seconds too, none of which are much use to these guys. Zabel hitting the front, and I think he'll get it. Zabel does take the points this time. A nice little fight between the two, but second place for Marco Frapporti means that he leads the intermediate sprint prize after 13 stages of this Giro d'Italia. Now again, Sean, this is far enough from the finish for the likes of Viviani and ʻdʒiːro to get interested again, isn't it?
Yes, well, I think anybody who is thinking of the sprint jersey at the end of this race, you have to mark up the points anywhere they're available, because when you look at that classification, even Contador, who was down there in 8th place, he's at 55. Like with this, the stage we have to come in the final week of this one. I know in the mountain stages there are a lot less points available, but if you look at Contador's performance, he's going, unless there's breakaways, he's going to mark up quite a lot of points, and that's become a danger one. And it's not the first time we see the guy who's going for overall, also winning the points classification.
Guys, maybe make that dot out already. Viviani on the right-hand side in the sky colours, the black jersey on the left-hand side. You can see Nicola Bohem. They've given him a nice red helmet for that red jersey as well, the Bardiani rider. Bohem, who's approaching his hometown of San Donà di Piave, wins it again, and Nicola Bohem is having a really, really good day so far. ʻdʒiːro in second place there, just picking up the rest of the points. Radio's in to say he's done his job. Well, I think they'll have been cheering after watching that on the telly.
I've won it.
Wow. Bit of a different chance for him to win the final one, though, isn't it, Sean? He's not the main sprinter in that team.
No, not the main sprinter, but still, he's performing well there. He leading out that sprint there with the men he had in his wheel, and you could see Viviani there just wasn't feeling good enough to come over him. He was, had a look out, and just not having the legs. Impressive from Bohem.
Nicola Bohem then in that intermediate sprint, holding onto his red jersey for now. 50 points available, though, on the final line today. As flat as they come today is Tinkoff Saxo, just lend a hand at the front. Sergio Paulinho coming to help a couple of the sprinters' teams. Tinkoff Saxo protecting the Maglia Rosa today. Lotto Soudal riding for Andre Greipel. Behind you have riders from Trek Factory Racing hoping to do their thing for Giacomo ʻdʒiːro. Chengji is there for Giant Alpecin, who have Luca Mezgec. He's really not been seen so far in this Giro d'Italia. And Lampre Merida with a rider hoping to do their best for Sacha Modolo. Running through Mestre, just on the outskirts of Venice itself. Not a day for gondola riding, though, today. I think I was sort of looking forward to Sean singing to me later on the Grand Canal, but it's not going to happen now, is it? In the meantime, we're going to go off and listen to Andre Greipel in just a minute. We managed to catch him at the stage start today. 68 Ks to go. Andre Greipel hoping to do his thing. If he win, he might be serenaded himself tonight, because I can't see him carrying on into the mountains next week. In the meantime, Sergio Paulinho continues to ride on. We cancelling the gondola tonight then, Sean?
Well, I think the conditions we have at the moment, certainly, and not the conditions we'd be expecting down here. Normally the conditions, nice conditions, and for the riders, I think there's a lot of riders out there just trying to get through this day. The ones who are certainly not going to have any chance of doing something in the final. You just get through the day, and if it was a nice, warm, sunny day, it would be a lovely day before the time till everybody could, just follow the peloton, relax, and it would be sort of a recovery day.
At the start with Andre Greipel, which is probably one of the main favorites for today. Is it simple to be the big favorite?
We nearly have it every other day as well, where it's a sprint that we have to take responsibilities. Today will be a bit more difficult. I'm expecting pretty nervous stage with the rain, slippery roads. Maybe there's also a bit more wind in the final. We're gonna see.
You already ran in this Giro, but for sure you don't want to stop your table of honor here.
Yeah, well, today is another opportunity, so for sure we're gonna try again.
And what is the plan? Avoid all the breakaways?
Yeah, otherwise we don't have a sprint.
Yeah, of course. Who are your main rivals?
Yeah, like you could see in all the other sprints, Viviani, Modulo, Petacchi. They're really good sprinters here, so yeah, hopefully we have a sprint.
And do you have keep an eye on the red jersey?
We go for the sprint today.
Thank you very much.
Serious head-on from Andre Greipel, the only way to describe it, I think, today.
Yes, and not surprising when you look at the weather forecast out of the bus and you just see the conditions out there. You know, a stage like that, you're certainly not looking forward to it, and especially Greipel. I don't think he likes, you know, the wet conditions, the slippery roads in the end. So it's understandable he have, you know, the head-on there, but as he said, you know, it's another opportunity. You have to get on with the job. It's the job, and but the weather conditions will change, you know, the morale of the riders so much, because then, you know, they'll be looking forward to this day, and to control the race, it's not a difficult day for them. Nice day, sunny weather. The position we're at the moment, 3 riders in front, it will be perfect for sprinter teams.
It's a job he's done so well down the years, Andre Greipel, as well. As they've got 1:11, those 3 guys you just saw on your screen, avoiding the photographer on the roundabout. I hope he's taken a step back before the peloton come round there. But yeah, Andre Greipel is one of 3 riders at this Giro d'Italia who's got more than 100 wins in his career. 120 now for Andre Greipel. Petacchi 154, 22 of which have come at the Giro d'Italia. Tom Bonen 114. With Bonen and Petacchi, we can't really build them up too much here. Bonen no longer a pure sprinter, but on his day, you never know, with the weather conditions, could be as quick as the best. Alessandro Petacchi, I think there are so many people watching here who would love him to get a goodbye win at the Giro.
Yes, well, it would be a perfect last Giro, or final Giro. Possibly, you know, this should be his last
should
one.
Should be at 41.
But yeah, if he could just get a stage victory again. You know, the conditions here today, I know the feeling when you're a sprinter and you get older and, you know, the end of your career, you go out with great intentions. First of all, dry conditions would make it that easy, because that's always a bit more safer, so you can hold your place up there, and if you're on a really good day, you always give it a try. But in the wet conditions, you're just breaking that little bit more, you're knocking off your pace, you're not prepared to take the risk going into the corner, and it's so difficult to overcome.
Age, risk-taking, situation in life, whether you've got a family or not, how secure you are financially, they're big things for sprinters, aren't they? We don't really think about it too much, but as you go on in life, you've achieved a lot already, you have to have that extra bit of motivation. It has to be something huge for you to take those little bits of extra risk, don't you?
Well, you know, you look at all those things, it's a combination of those things that, you know, I think as you go on in your career and you get older, you know, you have the intentions of, you know, really going for the sprint here. Now I'm going to go full on, I'm going to give it 100%, I'm going to give nobody an inch in this final couple of kilometres. But then, you know, you're going into these corners, wet conditions, and you're going into them at 50 kilometres per hour, and, you know, you just knock it off a little bit, and then suddenly there's somebody comes up your inside or comes up the other side, takes that position from you, and when you lose, you know, those positions in the final 2 kilometres, well, then you're a loser all the way then.
Approaching San Giuliano Park, Parco San Giuliano. Rick Zabel at the opposite end of that spectrum, 21, without a care in the world, I imagine. He'll be a man to take risks. But of course, he's in the breakaway today. No sprint for Rick Zabel. 64 k's to go, the rain still coming down. Pretty miserable out there. We're doing a bit of a loop to the north now, here with Venice, and off past the airport soon, Marco Polo Airport. After that, we'll be heading to San Donà di Piave, where Moreno Argentin comes from, and of course, the stage winner the other day, the winner of that 4th place in the intermediate sprint, Nicola Bohem, when he came through. Everybody getting ready for action behind. In fact, the Maglia Rosa being covered up again. The rain coming down hard. 63 k's to go. Good Italian recent memory.
Yes, it has been a very difficult week, and normally the first week when you get the undulating stages, they can be very aggressive, but the flat stages were also raced at such a fast rate, and when you see the breakaway being pulled back in the final, it just tells that down day. And today we were looking at the route. They'd say, well, this will be a real promenade today. As we go this race, and it's going to have an effect on riders in the final week, and not only the final week of this race. If you look at Contador, if Astana continue on tomorrow after the time trial, they have a number of men up there in the general classification, very much in contention. They will make the race difficult, of course, because they will try and do everything to crack Contador and Tinkoff Saxo. And then you look onto the Tour. For Contador, will he suffer from this very, very difficult Tour of Italy? That's another thing. And of course, Astana are going to think about that as well. They're not going to back off. They'll really make it difficult from here, and also in the back of their mind, they'll be thinking about the Tour of France, give him a hard time, and then for, of course, Vincenzo Nibali, for the Tour of France, it might give him a better chance.
Nibali and Froome at the minute are on the top of Mount Teide in Tenerife. As we look at Nicolas Bohem's current lead in the overall standings and the points, he leads by a good 15 points from Elia Viviani, Greipel in third, ʻdʒiːro fourth, Gilbert, yesterday's winner, in fifth, who we'll talk about before we get to the sprint today. But Nibali and Froome up there in their hotel together on the top of Mount Teide. Do you think they'll be sending text messages over to Aru and Port saying, yeah, have a real go at him, even if you're not going to win the Giro, have a real go at him, take him to pieces before July?
Well, they definitely will do that. They will try and make it as difficult for him, with the overall result here in the Tour of Italy in mind. But if that's not really possible, well, then they will keep on trying to work him over, make it difficult for his team, make it difficult for Contador himself, and that way further down the road, further down the season in the Tour of France, it will be an interesting one, because when you get a real difficult tour, you need the time to recover from that. But you cannot take too much time to recover, because you have also to get ready for the Tour of France, and it comes up very quickly. From the time you finish Giro d'Italia to the Tour of France, it comes around very quickly.
Alberto Contador on the radio to his sporting directors there, in pink. Again, as we've said numerous times this week, he doesn't mind the rain. It's from an area of Spain, Pinto, just outside of Madrid, where they get some really harsh winters. Fantastically hot summers as well, really extreme climate up there on the Meseta. 2 hours of racing today as Astana come to the front. We were talking about the Tour of France. Fabio Aru originally at the start of the season was publicly stating his desire to win the Giro and then go and race for Vincenzo Nibali in the Tour. I understand that he's not going to be selected for the Tour de France, but he's going to go to the Vuelta again as the leader of the team. And in the meantime, we've already said that Richie Porte raced 35 days, won 3 stage races before this Giro d'Italia. His plan, and the team's plan at the minute, is also to race him for Chris Froome in the Tour de France. So things are going. We're going to guarantee a stellar start list, even better than just the leaders of the Tour.
Yes, and when you look at the number of days riders have before they come into this Tour of Italy, Giro, a big difference between some riders, but there is riders who can perform well on a small amount of days racing. Other ones need that much more, and of course they know what they really need to get ready to be at 100%. And if you can get away with racing very little before the Tour of Italy, it's an advantage, because then you have less days racing. Fatigue is a little less of a problem, but if it does work out for you, we've seen that in the past over many years. Some riders tried that before the Tour of France, where they did very little racing, but it didn't work out for them, and they had to change a year later. They had to change and go back and race quite a number of days. So if you can do that and perform well with little racing, it is an advantage.
Just under 50 kilometres to go on our way to ʻdʒiːro. Peloton bunched up, and the gap is back down to 47 seconds now. Still too early, certainly for the sprinters teams, to catch these guys out in front. May just see them just hold back off the pace a bit, and there's a bit of an evidence already of that with the guys bunched up there. Crosswind at the minute not a factor, as it has been at different sections during the race, and we're approaching an expected sprint finish at Lido di Jesolo. Sabatini on the left-hand side, Mark Cavendish's training partner, having a laugh with Luca Paolini, who still looks like he's in his pyjamas. 47 kilometres to go and 47 seconds the gap. A second a kilometre, as Sean was just telling me. Not a big job to do, is it?
Not a big job to do for peloton, but for the three breakaway riders out front, it's going to be a big job. We could see Paolini there talking with Sabatini. He was probably saying, don't take it off early, just hold on to it for a while, it's too early yet, you're going to get cold.
Well, it's like a changing room at the clothes shop at the minute. Everybody going back to the cars, getting ready for the end of the stage. It's still pretty miserable looking out to the Venetian lagoon. Approaching the town of Porte Grandi, where we've had a lot of land reclamation work down the years here. In fact, the last couple of 100 years, 19th and 20th centuries as well. Town that overlooks the Great Lagoon. A lot of this land, once it was reclaimed, much more cultivable. A lot of traffic goes through on the way to Venice itself as well, a lot of lagoon traffic. You could just see when we saw the airport shot around 15 minutes back that there were marked lanes as if they were roads really along the lagoons. It's the breakaway in the meantime. Still the same three guys, Frapporti, Pino and Zabel, the Italian, the Frenchman and the German out there, with Androni, Yam Cycling and BMC all represented. We've had two intermediate sprints. These guys have got what they came for now, certainly in the case of Marco Frapporti, who now leads the intermediate sprint standings. There's a bit of looking behind, Sean. They've had enough, haven't they, I think?
Well, you know, they will be made aware via race radio from the director that, you know, the advantage is coming down, and we can see there's a lot of looking around here. They want to get back into peloton because it's, you know, it's been a difficult time for him, weather conditions, and they've been really riding hard as well. They're still pushing on at, you know, at a fast rate. They would be hoping that, you know, the peloton will close them down, but of course, you know, the peloton will try and leave them hang out there as long as possible, because that will calm things down in peloton.
Thanks for Bridie for writing in on Twitter, just asking if Chris Froome will be making use of the porter cabin that we've seen. Will they be taking those caravans to the Tour de France? No final decision has been taken, as far as I'm aware. I think that they're pretty happy with how things have gone there, but all sorts to talk about. What does it do for team morale? Protection of rider. I mean, if you've a rider that needs protecting so much, is he too fragile to win a Grand Tour anyway, Sean?
No, I don't think he's too fragile. The parcours is the difficult one this year again. You know, we have a start up in so much greater, and that is going to be a problem. But yeah, bike racing, you don't have any control over the route selected by the organiser, so you have just to get on, prepare at your best, and that's what Chris Froome is doing at the moment.
Luca Paolini still with his pyjamas on. Time for a change of glasses. Lighting answers as well going into this storm. Mind you, looking a little brighter up the road for the breakaway. A miserable sight behind us. It's the sprint teams at the front again. Thanks to Angela Jones for riding in all the way from the Whitsundays. Not sure what time it is there, but thanks for staying up with us. 44 Ks to go, and we're expecting a big sprint today. Lots of roundabouts towards the end though, and lots of possibilities for nerves. And I think the GC guys, before what is to come at the weekend, they've still got to get through this, and they've still got to make sure they stay up on the bikes, because we've seen so much evidence already in this Giro d'Italia that with wet roads anything can happen. And for the likes of Tinkoff, Sky and Astana, they're going to be riding at the front again, aren't they?
Well, they've got to ride at the front. You know, there's no, they have no choice. General classification teams with men up there with a man. or with a number of riders, as we have at Astana, you have to, you have to take risk and fight to keep your position up front and be grouped with the team. Keep 4 or 5 riders around your team leader and keep them there. And we're going to see a lot of that, a lot of team movement in the end. And of course, then the sprinters teams, they are going to be preparing for their sprinters. So it's going to be one of those hectic finishes. And with the rain and the wet roads, well, it's going to make it that much more nervous for everybody.
Andre Greipel on the right hand side shows off his national colours for the first time today. He's just been back to the car to get rid of his jersey. That means he's in position and ready for the run-in now. Still Chengji at the front, riding for Luka Mezgec today. Slovenia rider who is approaching very, very close to Trieste, just a couple of hours up the motorway to where he won his only Giro d'Italia stage on the final day last year. It was the crowning of King Nairo Quintana. Great, great win, right on the border with his home country. Luka Mezgec, the Slovenian. Hasn't had great form so far this year, though. It's Abel's first Giro d'Italia breakaway. He's had Frapporti and Jérôme Pinault riding the Giro for the first time in his long career so far. Versatile rider. It's been a year of firsts for him. He's been a few different races for the first time. Got Yam Cycling following over with Sylvain Chavanel. Always been at the side of Chavanel. Androni, in the meantime, will be very happy with another day of television exposure. That's what it's all about for them. They lead the intermediate sprints classification. Fuga Pinarello as well. They're up there with Bardiani, a few riders each in the breakaways. Astana and Sky en masse, right in the centre of that shot. Astana in the Sky in the black. Not particularly seaside weather. We've had past stages here in 1955 when Rino Benedetti won, Dino Zandegu won in 1970, Paolo Cimini in 87, and Alessio Di Basco in 1988. Back in 2015, and on our way right now to San Donà di Piave, hometown of Moreno Argentino, as we talked about. Also the hometown of Nicola Bohem, the man who's wearing the red jersey, points leader. Will he still be there at the end of the day? I very much doubt it today, given the fact that surely he's not going to challenge in the main sprint finish with all the class sprinters here. But he's picked up valuable points that could be useful. As we go into next week, you expect him perhaps to get in another break, take some more points from intermediate sprints. We shall see. There is Musile di Piave on the way to San Donà di Piave, as well as the religious buildings that you can see in the town hall. There's also a museum about the land reclamation we were talking about. Museo della Bonifica commemorates special features of this territory. Local economy, much to do with agriculture, local wines as well. Venetian wines very, very famous, especially the whites. More of that tomorrow when we're in Prosecco country and heading up into the hills. Aldo Biadere will host the arrival of that time trial. 50 seconds, and Sean Kelly, they're just being left to hang out there at the minute, aren't they?
Yes, we can see there for a number of kilometres now. The peloton very much grouped together, riders at the rear, putting on raincoats again as it starts to get a bit cooler, and they're not going at any rate back in the peloton. That tells they've knocked it off a bit, just allow these guys to hang out there on the 50 seconds. They don't want to pull them in. Otherwise, you're in a situation where there would be a lot of attacks, and the teams who haven't got a sprinter here would try and form a breakaway again, and that's not what the sprinters team needs. So they're just allowing it there to be around 50 seconds a minute lead and hang out there for as long as possible.
A sigh of relief at the minute as well for the general classification boys, because the wind is not playing a part as it could have done, and certainly was doing earlier on in the stage. .35 k's then for the break. So San Donà di Piave, the next town. After that, we're off to Eraclea. sorts of big gloves, jackets. And it's looking after them while staying in the peloton as well, getting back to the cars without throwing them into chain rings and things like that. It's not an easy job all the time, certainly when the wind's blowing and there's cars all around you, bike riders to watch, wheels to watch.
Well, it's for those guys, professionals, it's relatively easy today because it's going at a slow rate. But you imagine if there was, you know, a stronger wind there coming from the side, and you know the peloton pushing on at a fast rate, and riders wanting to get rid of their raincoats, and then the domestiques having to go back to the car, it would make it very difficult. But here today, you know, they can go back to the end of the peloton and just call the car and give back the rain gear, and it's not a difficult task, not a difficult job to do at all. And you know, the way they're rolling at the moment, easy for those guys. But they will be happy that you have the windy conditions, because if it was blowing a strong wind down here, well then we would see the peloton. It would be, you know, all over the place, and there'd be groups everywhere.
Italian version of the maypole there to welcome us to Musile di Piave. Remember having to do that at primary school, dancing around. There was not a pink bike on the top though. Pink jersey back in the peloton at the minute. 53 seconds, pardon me, with 33.8 Ks to go. Already seen the lagoon and Venice, the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Third major tourist destination in Italy. Rome, unsurprisingly, is the top destination. Milan gets the next number of visitors, then it's Venice. Said there are over 100 small islands, 118 for the proper count. A lot of them reinforced by wooden stakes and supported over several centuries. Of course, the Venetian Empire back in the day extending well into the Mediterranean Sea, beyond the Adriatic. So much cycling fandom and culture in this part of the world. Look at all the people braving the weather. This is the worst day since March in this part of the world. It is horrible, horrible weather out there. Feels a little colder as well. Temperatures at 14, 15 degrees, but hasn't deterred anybody. Talking about all that manoeuvring with the jackets. How about that? Right in the middle of the bunch. Again, it's second nature for a lot of these guys, but that sort of thing can be dangerous though. When's the ideal time for the sprinters teams to catch this group, Sean?
Well, they will be hoping to leave it as late as possible, but again, you know, it will start getting nervous. Everybody will want to be in the top 25 riders, 30 riders, and everybody meaning the riders who are going for the stage victory today, but also the general classification men. And it just automatically, the speed starts going up because you have teams, you know, just gathering to the front, and one team wants to control, another team will come up and just try and get over them, so that ups the pace by a kilometre or 2 kilometres per hour, and that's always, you know, the movement in the final 25-30 kilometres. Depending on the wind conditions, well, if there's not any wind out there, we could see it going at this rate for quite a long time. We might get into the final 15 kilometres, for example, but you just never know. So you have to, you know, be in a position where you can take control of the situation in case a team want to push it on. And you can see all the teams with the general classification men, they are quite close to the front, and the sprinters teams, they will start, you know, to prepare the sprint, but they will try and leave this breakaway out as long as possible. But you know, it's not easy to control that, because, you know, some teams want to take control in the front, and another team is not happy with that situation, and that's where the pace can start going up and up, and it can start 20 kilometres from the finish as it can start 30 kilometres from the finish.
Into San Donati Piave, that was the Piave River. Talked about it being the home of Nicola Bohem, the man who's in the red jersey, the points jersey at the moment, and Moreno Argentin, world champion in 1986. He was born here in the hamlet of Passarella, in fact, in 1960. Pro from 1980 to 1994. One Giro stage finish previously in San Donati Piave. Victory to Robbie McEwen over a man who's in the peloton today, Alessandro Petacchi, back in 2003. Just over 30 k's to go, just under a minute to the 3 breakers. Sprint coming up as we head towards ๊dʒiːro. Last day until we get to Milan for the sprinters. The mountains to come, the time trial to come, off into the Alps to decide the Giro d'Italia. Until then, though, it's all chance for a sprint finish. Expectant fans wait. 3 in the breakaway, 28 k's to go, 57 seconds with Pino, Frapporti and Zabel all out at the front of the race. They've been out ever since the first few kilometres today. Intermediate sprints have gone their way. Who's going to win from behind? Big list of favourites, although we have lost a couple of sprinters. The likes of Belletti and Pelucchi have climbed off. Two and a half hours of racing and the breakaway just about surviving. Not of their all own doing at the minute as well, because the peloton don't really want to catch them. It's a case of who blinks first behind. Nerves, GC teams, sprinters teams. The sprinters we have here, let's go through them. Davide Apollonio for Androni. Ruffoni is the sprinter for Bardiani. Gregor Bolla for CCC Sprandi. Tom Bona here for Ethics Quickstep, alongside Fabio Sabatini, with Heinrich Hausler there now for Jam Cycling, given the fact that Matteo Pelucchi has gone home. Sacha Modolo for Lampre Merida, with a very strong lead-out trainer of Richese, Ferrari, and of course Ulissi. Greipel is the main man for Lotto Soudal. They are all in for him, and we saw one of the best lead-outs that we've seen in recent years done by Greg Henderson earlier on in the Giro, back down at Castiglione in the south of Tuscany. Lobato's there for Movistar. They've had a good Giro already, winning a stage, and they've got 2 riders in the top 10. In Chasti in the blue jersey for the King of the Mountains. Michael Matthews still here for Orica Green Edge. Petacchi for Southeast, the old warrior, 41 years of age, oldest man in the Giro, alongside Luka Mezgec for Giant Alpecin. Alexander Pursev, the Russian champion for Katusha. Hofland sprinting for Lotto NL Jumbo. As you see, a bike change required. That looks like Andrea Amador. Amador going to get a new bike back into the peloton. Time to get back on. No worries there for the Costa Rican rider. Wanting to preserve his very good top 9th place at the minute in the Giro d'Italia. With the time trial coming up tomorrow, he could improve on that. Then comes the mountains. Oh, to finish the list of sprinters, we've got Elia Viviani from Sky, local boy today, hoping to win in front of his friends and family, and Giacomo Nizzolo from Trek Factory Racing. That's why Trek are on the front, and it's about time Trek got something out of this Giro d'Italia, isn't it, Sean? They're last on the team prize, they've been in the breaks, they've had good tries with the likes of Felline so far, and Nizzolo's been there or thereabouts in the sprint, but no GC challenge. They're here for a win, aren't they?
Well, certainly here for a win, and Nizzolo has been
present there, and it's the only card they have to play, and it's one of the last days where they can play it. So they're really trying to prepare the sprint for Nizzolo. I think today he could be a one that could go a long ways, because he's going to not be afraid. He'll take the risk there. And when you look at this run-in today, it's not a nice one at all in these wet conditions. There's a number of corners in the final kilometres, a few roundabouts, and actually just outside the kilometre to go, there's a roundabout. So it's going to be a hectic final kilometres here. And Trek Factory Racing, Nizzolo, I think he can do that quite well. He's a rider that can get around those corners in those conditions.
10 victories in his career, Nizzolo, as you see Enrico Barbin there. Nizzolo has never won a Grand Tour stage, though. Riders riding for him today. We've seen Elia Viviani get his first Giro d'Italia stage. Is it going to be a first for Nizzolo here? Fishing in the local area. 45 seconds for these three. 25k still to run. Remember, it is flat as a well-kept billiard table today, albeit a pretty slippy one in the round-a-bin. Lots of roundabouts around, wet roads too, and the nerves behind in the peloton. The likes of Contador, Aru, Port, Uran, all the people looking for the general classification, wanting to be out of trouble. They'll be riding towards the front until they get to that 3 kilometers to go mark. Of course, with 3 kilometers to go, any crashes, everybody gets the same time. Paolini still at the back in the black. Interesting to see if there is any sort of commissar action on that today, because they were so hot on it the other day with Richie Port. Surely if we want to export the sport to the world, we want to have recognisable teams. Fabio Aru on the left-hand side in the white jersey. Chance for a beat-on just before the bar closes at 20 kilometres to go. No more refreshments inside the final 20 kilometres. And with the way these sprint finishes go now, Sean, with all the different teams trying to organise themselves, there isn't really time to take any refreshments now. The pace is going to be on very soon.
Yes, and of course, you know, if you allow refreshments inside the final 20 kilometres, the riders will abuse that, the sticky bottle situation. So that is, it's a good regulation. That is certainly one of the good ones, where, you know, you're not allowed to take drinks. And of course, with the conditions today, you're not going to be drinking as much, but it's the weather where you have to be careful as well. You know, you don't feel that you need to drink, but you have to try and keep on sipping at your energy drink. Also, your food in these weather conditions. You know, you don't feel like eating, but you know, you do have to continue on, and that's something the director of sport will be talking to the riders. We did hear about Aru yesterday. He suffered a little bit from hunger in the end. It is possible in the wet conditions yesterday. You know, you're climbing, not easy to eat something when you're going uphill. Then the downhill, of course, in the wet conditions. Although the riders, you know, are very good. There wasn't a lot of occasion in the final where you could eat something. So it is possible that, you know, the best of riders and the most experienced riders get caught out, and that's something the director sportive always have to, you know, keep reminding the riders, just keep on eating something every 15-20 minutes, keep on drinking, and it's very important because you do forget in the conditions we've had the past 3 days.
Frapporti, man in the white and blue at the front on the left-hand side, Marco Frapporti, the Italian, leader of the intermediate sprints classification. You've got Rick Zabel behind in the red, the German, and with him, Jérôme Pinault. To correct myself from earlier, former stage winner of the Giro d'Italia in Novi Ligure, 2010. I remember I was at the finish line there. Sergio Paolini still leading in. Again, of course, as the pink jersey wearers, they have been honouring the jersey by helping the sprinters' teams to ride at the front, but mentality starts to change a little now. And certainly the gap continues to change, because we're about to see the neutral service car pulled out of the gap there. As soon as it drops another couple of seconds to 30, I think we're going to see it move up the road, and you can just, if you look far enough in that shot, Sean, see the peloton on them behind.
Yes, we can see them, they're just in view there, and as we come up to the 20 kilometres to go, it will be interesting to see how long more they will be allowed to stay out here, and it's just the peloton is deciding now how long the breakaway is going to hang out in front.
That time to think who's going to win today. Remember, we want to hear from you. Hashtag Home of Cycling for all your predictions. Thanks to Richard Griffiths for tweeting some fantastic pictures. Says if you think this is rain, have a look at where he is in Hong Kong. It is absolutely teeming it down with rain out there. These guys have got it light compared to that. Just take a look at our Home of Cycling hashtag to check out Richard's pictures. There's Tinkoff Saxo with Alberto Contador there. You can just tell it's him. Pink panels on the shorts and the pink helmet as well. And looking at the form of the guys, only really Greipel and Viviani have winning form coming into this. The only 2 times we've had sprint. We've seen that Moreno Hofland won a stage in the Tour of Yorkshire, and he also was second on the stage to Genoa. But you get the feeling though, Sean, that when the likes of Greipel or even Viviani are on the day, it's hard to see anybody getting close to them, isn't it?
Yes, normally you would, you know, that's a calculation you would be making, but in the conditions we've been having,
I think the conditions again today is going to be a little bit more of a different final with the wet roads, of course. It's not going to be as fast. They cannot go as fast into the corner, so that will mean that somebody maybe who is not in as good a shape, or maybe not as fast as some of the better sprinters, there's have a better chance here today, and that's something that a lot of sprinters will be saying. And the ones who are prepared to really push it and push the danger barrier out, well, they're the ones who can stay in a really good position. And if you look at some of the riders, that Modulo, for example, I think he is a rider that's very good bike handling. I don't think he have any fear at all when he gets into that final couple of kilometres. And the day today, a flat stage, he should be finishing quite fresh, so that's also going to have a bearing. But depending on how you're getting on the last number of days as well, if you have to really dig in to stay in the Gruppetto, or if you're being comfortable in the Gruppetto, there's a big difference there.
Yeah, we're talking stage 13 here, almost 2 weeks of racing. Giro d'Italia started 2 weeks ago tomorrow. 20 kilometres remain. 14 seconds now, every single motorbike, every single commissar, neutral service, everything being pulled out of that gap now. The guys know it as well. They've moved over to the left. They know exactly that they're going to be taken. Time for a few bidons to be thrown where they will be collected as well. Nice to see those recycling zones provided by the organisers. Some riders still need to learn to use them, but we're getting there. You can see a few bottles being thrown over the side of the road. You can see the start and end signs. And wherever we have those, we have fans close by. Now, road furniture, I think, is going to be an issue in the last 20k, certainly in the last 5 to 10 kilometres, roundabouts and everything. We talked about Modulo being a good bike handler and the fact that everybody's going to need to just have their wits about them. We should have changed to the front here. Alessandro Petacchi already coming up to the front. Southeast riders there as well. But it seems that the general classification teams, or the guys who are just taking over at the minute.
Yes, we can see there Tinkoff Saxo very much the front, control the front of the pace of the peloton and controlling the pace as well. We can see the team of Aru Astana coming up there as well. So yes, it's a time now where inside the final 20 kilometres you have to keep a real good position, and that means you're risking the possibility of getting tied up in any problems, any crashes. And we can see, yes, it's all the general classification teams really at the front at the moment.
Tinkoff Saxo in the yellow for the leader. Alberto Contador has his pink jersey covered up for the moment. Fabio Aru very close to the front. You can see the Ethics Quick-Step boys looking after Rigoberto Urán, their Colombian leader. Belgian team all around him on this sort of terrain. Will they be having a go with Tom Bonen today? Maybe even Fabio Sabatini, who we've seen too. 18 Ks remain. Jesolo on the right-hand side. Some loungers lined up, but it's not exactly a day to be having. Now, I don't think there'll be anybody in the swimming pools either. Post-stage meals will be inside rather than out on the terrace this evening. îdʒiːro, they come through. Handshake from everybody involved. Nice bit of work. It's always nice to see that, isn't it? It just shows what a sport cycling is and the values that it keeps.
Yes, it's nice to see it. They all three, they gave it their best, and unfortunately today they were never given the advantage, with any hope of going on to the finish. And they've had their day. They've got good exposure for their sponsors, and that's very important for a team, and especially for the smaller teams. That's what they come here for the Giro. They try and get as much exposure as possible, and if possible get a victory.
70 Ks to go off to Jesolo, and it's time for a sprinters show. Penultimate sprinters show of this Giro d'Italia, with the last stage in Milan on stage 21 next Sunday, offering the final opportunity. For the minute, it's the general classification teams who have brought back the breakaway alongside those wanting the sprint. Tinkoff Saxo looking after Alberto Contador. The nerves will just start to jangle around these points. Wet roads, Lots of roundabouts. You can see the first of them already being taken on now. Advantage maybe to Elia Viviani, who has the local knowledge as a homeboy. Can he win his second stage of this Giro d'Italia and take back the red jersey? Stage favourite, surely, Andre Greipel. Not always one to like the messy finishes, though. 4-stage Giro finishes, as we said earlier on in the broadcast. First in 1955 with Benedetti winning. Di Basco, the last winner here in 1988. Had starts since then. 2009 we started down in Jesolo, in fact. Just see the Grand Lagoon in the background of Venice. Canals leading up to it. Orica Green Edge appearing for the first time, so it looks as though they will have a try at least with Michael Matthews. Peter Veining still in his black rain jacket. This is the last kilometre, Sean, on the right-hand side.
Yes, and as we can see here, a number of roundabouts and a lot of surface waters, as we can see there. There's, you know, it is going to be a very, very nervous final for everybody, and it's going to be certainly a fast one as well. But of course, with the wet conditions, they'll have to, you know, knock their speed down. But as we can see here, a number of roundabouts on the run in. It's not a nice one at all, and hopefully that everybody gets through. But there is guys going to, and teams going to take a lot of risk to keep them in up front.
And you can see the last one there with 450 metres to go. It comes out and goes back onto the straight. The last 450 are on that straight. Lots of surface water though, not the most simplest of finished. $15Ks to go. Alongside the canal. A few gondolas out to watch them as well, braving the weather. This is Jesolo's a seaside resort. Commissars to the front. Movistar with a couple of their riders up there as well. Nervous moments for everybody involved. There is Jesolo. Oh, he's singing to himself today. That's ordered, I'm afraid, in this region. Oh, there are courses to do, licenses to obtain. It's a specialised career. You've got to have a singing voice as well. You ever been on one of those?
Never.
Something to put on the list. Don't think we'll bother tonight, though. Matteo Tosato at the front. He's from this region as well. 41 years of age too. It was his birthday the other day. Big job to do for Alberto Contador. I think Alberto Contador is going to have to find time to get rid of that rain jacket as well before he finishes. 13Ks to go. Of course, rules state that the numbers must be showing when you cross the line as well. You see a few guys coming down the gruppetto who will just turn the jackets up, won't you, just to show their numbers. But the likes of Contador, surely he's got to have his jersey showing.
Yes, well, I think he will probably just roll up the back of that rain jacket. Has he got a rain jacket on, or is it another jersey over the...
He's got black arm warmers on, as you can see, the pink helmet, yes, and another jersey, perhaps a cut-off rain jacket or something.
Yes, it looks like there's a cut-off sleeve on a rain jacket. He will fold it up. It doesn't look like he's going to take it off. He's going to hold on to it now because, you know, getting inside the final 13 kilometres, it's not going to be easy. If he doesn't do it real quickly, well, then he's going to have to go all the way to the finish with it.
On the Venetian plains, negotiated a couple of intermediate sprints. Breakaway of 3 riders that saw Frapporti, Pino and Zabel get away. All been swallowed up again now. We've had a bit of wind around today. None of that looks to be too much of an issue for now. Even the sea's calm. Not even a surfing day. Northeast of Italy, the Adriatic Sea and the roads of Jesolo, welcoming stage 13 of this Giro d'Italia. It's actually one of the shortest stages of the Giro as well, at 147 kilometres. pace really on. Again, despite the headwinds, we've had another quite quick day today. It's going to be faster than the fastest time schedule. Number 93 here at the back, Grimai. Plenty of pink, the Italian flags as well. Well, there's quite a strong regional political feeling here in the Veneto. Sky to the front with Vasil Kirienka. Kirienka, Eisel, Puccio. First thought here will be for Richie Portshome on it, and then once we get to the end, the guys that are left, the likes of Kirienka, maybe Puccio, Eisel himself, will definitely be thinking of Elia Viviani.
Yes, I think for the moment it's all about Richie Port and keep him right to the front here, keep him out of any danger at all, and they're doing a good job here, you know, right up in front, on the front of the peloton, and I think Viviani is going to have to defend quite a lot for himself. Probably Eisel, you know, as we get into the final 3-4 kilometres, he's the one who can do that, keep Viviani in that top 10 riders, and then from there he will have to look after himself and follow the other big sprinters.
Absolutely wonderful. Look at that. Walter Wayland 1:08. Everywhere they remember the guy. It's been 4 years now, but people do not forget. The number retired, and the public of Italy took that moment to their hearts. They remember him every single year. Walter Wayland, who very sadly died 4 years ago at the Giro d'Italia. Petacchi being brought to the front on the left-hand side. He's in the white and grey jersey of Southeast, the new Italian team. Jérôme Pino at the back, who was in the break earlier on. Grimai just in front of him. CCC lost their first rider yesterday. Jaroslav Maric, recovering in hospital. Had a crash on the descent. And we're approaching a moment at the end of this road where we sort of almost hit the seaside and turn round, Sean, before heading probably with a tailwind into the finish here.
Yes, whatever bit of wind is there, it should be a tailwind, but I don't think it will be of any major advantage. But from the point where we turn here, you know, there's quite a few technical areas where it goes right and left, a number of roundabouts, and at the moment things are quite calm. It's not too aggressive here on the front of the peloton, but as we, you know, get closer and closer to finish, we're going to see the sprinters teams, you know, trying to take control, and that's when it really starts to go much faster. Considering we're 10 kilometres to the finish, it is calm for the moment.
The yellow jerseys of Lotto NL Jumbo, the Dutch team, with their Dutch sprinter Moreno Hofland in the middle, coming to the front as well. Lotto NL have had 2 second places so far at this Giro d'Italia. Hofland himself on stage 2 to Genoa, and then Kruijswijk on the stage to San Giorgio del Sannio right at the end of the first week. There they are, centre right of the peloton on your screen with the yellow, white and black jerseys. The fluorescent yellow as this big right-hand turn now comes up, the one that Sean was talking about a minute ago, with the fluorescent yellow of Tinkoff Saxo on the front of the group. So here's that big right turn then, and now you've got to look out for the street furniture, the roundabouts, the curves, lots of little warnings when you look down at the plan and the road book. Lido di Jesolo, the finish today. Of course, Jesolo city itself, the town, is just a couple of kilometres inland. Lido di Jesolo is the seaside resort. That's what the city lives off. In the summer months, when the weather's a lot better than this, absolutely packed with people on the Adriatic coast. A lot of people who come up from Venice, down from Friuli as well, or even across the border from Slovenia in a couple of hours down the motorway. As you can see, in ancient times, Jesolo known as Equilium, city of horses. Ancient Veneti, the ancient Venetians, famous for their horse breeding. Which is a thoroughbred who's going to get to the line first, though. Greipel, the pre-stage favourite. Is his team going to look after him enough as they come through the final few kilometres? Longest beach in Italy here as well, 15 kilometres long, the beach at Lido di Jesolo. Little bit of a change in atmosphere now, Sean, as you might expect. Sprinters teams coming to join in. Tinkoff, Saxo, Astana all fighting for position 2. And it's where the guys have to start doing big turns to ensure that their team and their formation stays in the right position.
Yes, we can see now that there's quite a movement on the front, and we just see our shots of the front. You can see a bit more nervousness, and it's going to go on from here as we're inside the 8 kilometres to go. A mixture of a lot of teams, and teams with different ideas, some for general classification and of course some for the stage victory.
7.6 k's to go. Trek Factory Racing, white and black at the front on the left hand side. Aru is there, second wheel in the white jersey, being nicely protected by his Astana teammates. Richie Port very close to the front as well, but a couple of the Sky Riders fragmented. You've got one on the right hand side, 2 at the front on the left hand side. Port's there on the left, Viviani on the right, it seems, surfing the wheels at the minute. You can see the Australian Champions jersey of Heinrich Hausler, who's now going to be the main sprinter for Yam Cycling, but of course, unless it's really hard, unless it's really crazy, he's not as fast as the likes of Greipel or Viviani. On the right-hand side, Michael Matthews being brought in position by Orica Greenedge. What a start to this race they had last week. Tailed off ever so since for them. They lost Simon Gerrans yesterday. Can Matthews win a stage before he's expected to head home tonight? 6.8 k's to go. Big right-hand turn coming up, and quite a technical one as well.
Yes, just outside 6k to go. There is a right-hander, then a left-hander, and immediately after that there's a roundabout to be negotiated, so a bit of a technical area at the moment, but they're not going at a real fast pace for the moment. We can see teams are just trying to take control but not give a big effort for the moment. It's Trek Factory Racing who was at the front at the moment, but they're certainly not giving it their 100%.
Well, going into the final 6 kilometres, remember last night at dinner, all the lead-out men, the trains will have sat down, they'll have watched this on Google Maps, they'll have been looking at YouTube videos, they'll have had guys who perhaps live in the area taking videos on their bikes, as already it's hard to stay up with that one little bit of a right-hand turn that we just saw. Trek Factory Racing leading this for ʻdʒiːro at the minute. All of these operations for the big sprint teams, it's almost military precision nowadays. These guys will know exactly what they're doing, certainly the lead-out men, and maybe the third to last man as well calling the shots. 139 at the back was Peter Weinink. Fabio Fellini trying to do his job at the minute at the front for Giacomo ʻdʒiːro, his sprinter. Another big left-hander here. Roundabout coming up fairly quickly too, just over 5 k's to go. Nerves building in the group. Alafacci takes it up, the Italian for Trek Factory Racing. At the back of that 4-man train there is his sprinter. His sprinter today is Giacomo ʻdʒiːro. Looks as though at the minute that Elia Viviani's quite isolated at the front. No Sky teammates with him.
No, he's very much to the front. He's in really good position. If he can hold in that place for the next number of kilometres, well, then he's perfectly positioned, but no Sky man. But not surprised, because I think at this moment still, with just over 5 kilometres to go as we negotiate this roundabout, Sky are looking after more so Richie Port.